It was a strange decision, wasn't it, when Giakoumakis stepped up to hit the penalty when Juranovic was on the pitch. And then they come out, Celtic, and say that, well, Giakoumakis is the designated penalty taker. Normally, Kenny's a striker, normally, if you've took a penalty and scored, you take the next one. It's a strange one because Giakoumakis hasn't took penalties. He hasn't had one this season for Celtic. And why they would make that change when Juranovic had a 100% record.
Does he want his new striker who's just in the door to get in among the goals? Is that what that was all about?
And if you're a centre forward, you step up, you want to take the penalty, you think you can slot it away, and it's all of a sudden then it's 2 goals in 2 games for Giakoumakis. But listen, I think you've got to go with what the word is from Celtic. He was the designated penalty taker, and he was the one who was going to step up and take it. But what I would say as well, Gary, is that Celtic had 11 or 12 players, including the substitutions that played the 90 minutes for Celtic on the weekend. As you said, they had 16 efforts on goal, 2 on target. So for 90 minutes, them other 11 or 12 players, they had the opportunity to win the game. They couldn't win the game. So you can't just label the blame on Giakoumakis. And some of the reports, some of the things that I was seeing, that people were saying, hang your head in shame and things like this. And I could name 4 players now that missed big penalties. The players have lost World Cups because they missed penalties.
Hartson? Is John Hartson one of those names?
Missed a penalty in a cup final. Chris Sutton missed a penalty in a cup final. Alan Thompson, the great Henrik Larsson, missed penalties. Now, I think what makes it a bit more difficult is that it was last seconds. It was a great opportunity for Celtic to go and win 5 out of 5. To keep this momentum going, and it was such a poor penalty. The run-up was all wrong, the strike was all wrong. So, we can't just, it's a great opportunity, of course, to go and score the penalty, but you can't just label the blame on Giakoumakis, because Celtic had 90 minutes to go and win that game of football.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose it's heightened, maybe the Celtic fans' disappointment, anger, surprise is based as well on the fact that Juranovic, his 2 penalties, he's looked really good, hasn't he, from the spot? He's looked like there's no way he's missing.
Like, he steps up and just strokes in the back of the net. I mean, the last one he hit was hit with venom. It was hit at a good height with good power. I just wonder as well. I mean, being the designated penalty taker for me would suggest that you're playing regularly every week, John. He's not been.
But he hadn't hit any other penalties.
It's not a penalty. I think it was his second start, if I'm right to say. Like for me, a designated. What happens if the games previous where he's not been starting, you've been getting penalties? And the guy's built up that confidence, that ability to go, I'll step up 12 yards and I'll put it in the goal. And he's done it twice. I just find it really, really strange. A guy who's not started too many games is actually a designated penalty taker. And you talk about strikers. Kyogo's on the field to play. He's got a chance to go and get double figures for the season already. So again, there's that. You know what? They said there's a designated penalty taker. Absolutely no problem. But it was strange to see, and I'm sure everybody at Celtic Park, when there was a penalty given in the 92nd minute, whatever it was, that Juranovic is going to step up and put it in the goal, and they're going to win 1-0.
We'll play devil's advocate for a minute, right? If Giakoumakis has taken the ball off Juranovic, now we don't know if this has happened, got no proof. All we going on is McGregor, the captain, the manager, have said he's the designated penalty taker, Giakoumakis. If he has taken the ball off Juranovic, then he's in the wrong. Because Juranovic should be saying, look, I've scored 2 out of 2. The other players then should step up and say, look, allow Juranovic to go and take the penalty. But we are taking it as if Celtic are absolutely right. They're saying that Giakoumakis was the designated penalty taker. They have decided on the training ground, they have decided in the dressing room with the manager amongst themselves that Giakoumakis is the penalty taker. Then he's totally within his rights to go and take that penalty. But if that conversation hasn't happened, for instance, and they're just saying that Giakoumakis is the penalty taker because he stepped up and took it, then Juranovic has got to be bolder in that situation. Say, hold on a minute, I've scored my last 2, pal. It's like the cup final for me, Rob. Henrik Larsson, when I missed that penalty against Rangers in the League Cup final, Henrik Larsson, we'd played 3 or 4 games prior to that final, and Henrik had broke his jaw, unfortunately, in a Europa League game, in a league game. I think it might have been against Livingston actually, which kept him out for 4 or 5 games. I then became the penalty taker. So I scored 2 or 3 penalties. We come to the final, we're 2-0 down. Henrik's got us back in the game 2-1 with a diving header. We get a penalty in the 90th minute. Henrik gets the ball and chucks it to me. He says, there you go, pal. He said, you've scored your last 2 while I've been out of the team.
Right.
What I should have done was chucked it back at him and said, no, you take it. So obviously I stick it an inch or 2 past Kloss's right hand post, and Kloss dives to his left. So unfortunately for me, a major disappointment. Last kick of the game, I think we'd have made it 2-2, come back from 2-0, we take it into extra time, blah blah blah. But that's what, Henrik was the penalty taker. But what he did was, he was the ultimate professional. He said, well, you've scored the last 2 or 3 pens while I've been out of the team. You take it.
I like that picture of you chucking it back to him. That would have been good.
And then Henrik throwing it back to John.
Yeah, exactly. No, cheers.
What do you think, Gary?
I just think I wouldn't agree with any of the slating that Jackie Mackis is getting. I mean, all strikers, as you say, all players have bad days for the penalty spot. I wasn't a fan of the penalty run-up.
No.
I don't like players that kind of stutter. And listen, if you're going to do that, make sure you put it in the corner. Don't kind of hit it. It was sort of middle to left or middle to right. So it was a poor penalty at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, just touching on that penalty, you missed. I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. I think you were, if I'm remembering correctly, you were about a week onside and got a goal disallowed.
Well said, pal. Well said.
Miles offside of us.
You made my night there, Gary.
Kenny, did you take many penalties?
I missed loads, loads. Missed loads. Missed one in the Carling Cup final when I was at Cardiff. Missed big ones, I think. And
I think I was jumping around my living room when you missed that one for Cardiff.
It was missed one for Celtic when we played against Falkirk in a penalty shootout as well. And that, I think at that point, it was it one of the last ones. Now, you know what, I always went up early. I always said I'll go up first. So see if I miss it's not the big miss. But missed getting games. Missed a few for Rangers as well. Wolves. Missed penalties. That's it. The best players in the world miss penalties. But I think we're only talking about all these things now, obviously, because he missed. If he went up and wrapped in the top corner, we wouldn't be worrying about who the designated penalty taker is, why he's not taking it, why is he not taking it. We wouldn't be talking about run-ups as well. You'd be saying how cool he was that he went slotted it in the other corner. It's just the fact of the matter is when you miss penalties, you're really, really scrutinised, particularly in the 92nd minute when you've got a chance to go and, like you say, turn 1 point into 3 in a big moment as well to put your team top of the league.
Tell Alexa to launch Go Radio or listen on the Go Radio app.